Welcome back to the Beginnings Quilt Along. This is block number 6, Sally's Sheep. And here I'm just showing how I laid out all the pieces so that I could see that the picture was correct. And also showing you how to do your diagonal background pieces so that when you sew it together, you'll have a nice curved sheep. And just for future reference, if you don't know which way to put the diagonals, just do a reality check. Go ahead and just fold it back and say, does that look right? Yeah, it looks like right. And then you'll know that you have it right. So just go ahead and lay out your pieces, and then we're going to sew them together. So what I do is I do chain piecing, which means instead of doing one whole row and then doing the next row, what I'll do is I'll do one piece on the first row, one piece on the next row, all the way down. That way I don't have to cut my thread in between the rows. It saves thread and it saves time. So what I'll do is go ahead and sew the first row, the second row, the third row, then I'll open up the first row, sew the next piece on, open up the second row, sew the next piece on, open up the third row, sew the next piece on, etc. And that way all of your rows get done at the same time. Then you can just cut them apart and press them. So here I am sewing them. And what I did was I sewed the third row first because it's really hard to get started on your diagonal pieces without getting the edges turned over. Adding in a note here that you should be sewing on the diagonal line, not next to it. So just starting on a corner, you'll see what I mean. It just turns your edges over. It makes a mess. You'll end up with a nest of thread and a big mess on the edge of your corners. So I always do the corner parts second. Now I'm going to sew all the rows together. And what I'm showing you here is you're going to want to turn your ear piece over onto your face piece. I just love that there's a Mary Poppins right in the middle of my sheep face. Anyway, gotta love Tilda. It's so cute. Oh, and please excuse if you hear the noise outside. Somebody's doing landscaping and it's really loud. And I'm really sorry for the noise. And also my dogs are probably going to bark at them. So I will apologize ahead of time for that. So I am nesting the face piece up to the edge of the ear pieces and putting a pin in, just like we've done all along when we're piecing our squares together. And again, this side I'm nesting the pieces up and pinning them. On the written directions, I have made a note which way to press your pieces so that you can nest your seams. And I don't show you here, but I do, before I sew these, I do pin both ends as well, not just the center where the ears are. And I'm just showing you here that they match up nicely with where the face is so that your little corners come out nicely. And then when you sew your two bottom piece section to your center section, you're going to match up the center of the legs with the face again so that you get it nice and straight and it doesn't look like his feet are off center. And here I'm just pinning each end of the row, and then I'll pin in the center like I always do. What you can't tell in the video, of course, because you're not feeling it the way I'm feeling it, is I'm being really gentle with these pieces. So even though these are straight of grain pieces and they shouldn't stretch, I'm really careful not to stretch thinner pieces, thinner strips of fabric, because the fact that they are only 1.5 inches wide makes it easy to stretch them, and you don't want to have stretched out wobbly looking pieces when you sew them together. So I'm just really careful when I'm working with them, and I try not to stretch them or be too rough with them. And again, pinning the ends, pinning the center so that I can get these sewn together. And I'm not going to bore you by showing you sewing straight lines down these seams. So I'm just going to show you that I did pin both ends and pinned the center. Normally on the lead edge, which would be that edge on the left side, I don't put a pin that close to the end. I normally put it in a little ways, which I'll show you in a minute. That way, when you put your presser foot down, your pin's not in your way and you're able to take a couple stitches before you pull your pin out. Otherwise, it runs into your pin right away and then you have a problem because it wants to just stick there and you end up with a nest of thread underneath. So I'm just gently folding this in, and when I press these, I'm pressing toward the sheep because I want the sheep to stand out, not the background to stand out. And I usually do that. I don't. It probably doesn't make a lot of difference, but that's just the way I like to do it. And here I'm adding a little steam. I don't put water in any of my irons anymore. When I had the brick and mortar shop, putting water in the irons would get rust in them and people would end up with rust stains on their fabric. So I just got in the habit of not putting water in my irons to steam anymore. So I have a little spray bottle that I bought at Daiso for $1.50, and I just spray water on them. And when I am not using it, I take the water out because you can get mold in your water bottle. If you want to put a couple drops of rubbing alcohol in there and you don't mind the smell of the rubbing alcohol on your fabric, that'll keep you from getting mold in your water. But normally I just pour the water out. It's a little tiny bottle and who cares if you're pouring water out, right? Anyway, just showing that I'm pressing toward the sheep, and I pressed, when I did the strip pieces, I pressed toward the sheep parts. So I pressed toward the ears, pressed toward the face, pressed toward the legs. That way that they're the pieces that are standing out instead of the background pieces. So now I'm just going to sew those 3 sections together. Put them back on my little ruler. That way it's easy to carry them over to my sewing machine. And here I'm showing that I matched up the inside of the legs with the outside of the face so that it's nice and straight and it doesn't look like your legs are off to one side of the body. And as you can see, it's really easy to nest these seams again, just like you always do, to get them nice and straight. And then I pin it and sew it. And I do the same thing with the other side so that it's nice and straight. Believe it or not, it's easy to get these off, even if it's off by about 1/16 of an inch. It looks really strange. And also, this is just a really good habit to get into. Later on, if you're putting blocks together in a quilt that has sashing, you'll want to remember to line your sashing up between your blocks. Otherwise, it's going to look like your rows are crooked. So putting these blocks together this way, where I show you to line up the pieces that are supposed to be lined up, just get you in the habit of putting those together that way so that your sashing comes out nice and straight in your quilts when you put your quilts together as well. And here's the bottom pieces sewn together. Now I'm going to do the top section. Pin in one end, pin in the center, and pin at the other end. And here's where I show you that I actually put the pin back a little ways away from the end so that when you put your presser foot down, you can take a couple stitches before you get to your pin, and that way it'll keep your presser foot from stopping at the pin or keep you from running over the pin and bending your pin or breaking your needle. And here we are. I'm just going to go ahead and press this, pressing again toward the face and pressing down toward the ears on those 2 seams so that the parts that you want to stand out more are standing out more. I just love my little sheep. I think it's so cute. And I made this in honor of, well, I had made a sheep back in the old days when I first started quilting, but I made this one in honor of my best friend Sally because she loves sheep, so I had to make a sheep for this quilt. And here it is, my cute little sheep. It's so stinking cute. I just love it. Steaming it to get it nice and flat. And excuse the wiggle of the camera. I hit my tripod with my elbow here a couple times. So cute. Thanks. Bye.